Rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could remain standing as we always do, and remember our men and women in the armed forces, those that are home and those that are abroad, and also Norman Sheldon. Thank you. Okay, so start out the meeting. Something good. Come up here, Miss Emily. Come here, come close to me. Got her? Okay. You know I wanted to give you this certificate. I know that you've received others, as rightfully you should. The fire chief is here, and this has to do with you being in the fire department. But it has a little bit more to do than the fire department. I've known this for a long time. I see you for sure once a week in church. And I see you sometimes, but I always can count on you. I always can count on seeing you in church. And I've thought about this for a long time, the type of person you are. You know, this has more to do than the fire department. You are exactly what we want our young people to grow up as and get involved in. You get involved in so much. Besides your school, besides all the extra things you do for school, which I know you do, because that's the type of person you are. God, you joined the fire department. And that's no light duty. There's a lot involved. It's not easy to be a member of the fire department. The training that's required, the cleaning that's required, the meetings that are required. If you don't go, you're not in. So I don't take any of that lightly. And again, you are exactly what we want. I want you to go to college, and then I want you to come back.
Of course.
Okay. Right?
Right.
Okay. So, this young lady here, Emily Green, recently completed Firefighter 1. Now, I know that Firefighter 1 is a lot different than when I took it 4 decades ago. It's a lot more involved, correct, Chief?
Yeah, it's over 100 hours of training.
Over 100 hours. Mine was not 100 hours.
No.
That's a big commitment.
39 probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Over 100 hours to complete this course. And where did you take this course at?
The fire training center in Goshen.
You had to go to Goshen.
Almost every day, like 3 days a
Wow.
week.
Commitment. Those things don't come easy. They're not easy to do. I'm sure there were times when you had something else to do.
A lot of schoolwork.
So you successfully completed your 100 hours of fire to pass Firefighter 1. You also are basic exterior firefighter operation 79 hours. That's over and above the other,
I think it's something like that, yeah.
right? This has to do with the interior firefighting 49 hours. That's with our gear,
Yeah, that's
the tanks.
yeah, air packs.
That's great. That's so important. Those tanks are so important.
Yeah, they are.
I remember I could never figure out which way to. I used to
I
do
still
this,
struggle, yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
sometimes it came on and sometimes. First aid, CPR. AED. What is that?
That's the defibrillator.
I know that. Over a total over 130 hours of training that does not include formal in-house. Exactly, that's the training that Eric gives us. We're lucky.
Yeah, very lucky.
An honor student.
I try.
You're an honor student.
Yeah.
Varsity athletics. What?
softball, and I didn't play basketball this year, but basketball as well.
Ask a busy person to do something, and it'll get done.
Yep.
That's you.
Yep.
She follows her father into the fire service. How many years?
Fire service?
30 years. And I'm sure that was the reason you probably
Partially.
first joined.
Yeah,
You
first
know,
love. Yeah.
that's great. And I know there's more.
Yeah, probably.
So, thank you. First of all, thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. But it's nice to know that we have fire people, men and women, here in this community, because I was reading your yearly report. We're down to 39,
Maybe 37.
37 people. When I got in the early 70s, there was a waiting list, and the waiting, there could be 75.
Mhm.
And there already was 75, so I had to wait.
Right.
37 people. We need
Mhm.
you. Thank you. Certificate of Achievement award to Emily Green for completion of Firefighter 1 training course, which requires 79 hours of basic exterior firefighting operations and 49 hours of interior firefighting along with first aid training. Emily has shown true dedication and eagerness to serve the community and the Highland Falls Fire Department. That last line says what I'm trying to say. Emily has shown true dedication and an eagerness. You don't sit and wait for someone, hey, will you help me? You're the person that goes first. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, there was one requirement that there was, you have to stay for the whole meeting. Go. Wow, that quick? That's it, buddy.
Hey, you left, is that your bottle?
Oh, that's on the spot.
No, it's hers. Thank you.
All right. Let's do the public hearing that we kept open. And just for a little reference, the law was introduced on November the 19th. The planning board has made recommendations. Residents here, including tonight, have made comments. Our engineer has made comments. Our attorney has guided us through this. There's been some modifications to the original one that was introduced on November the 19th. And since November the 19th, including tonight, our fourth public hearing that's been kept open. Okay. So as I said, it is open. Any comments? Yes.
I'll just make a comment. My understanding, this has been a couple-month process, and, you know, I think good amendments have been made. The one remaining issue to me is the area that it covers and one specific thing in the use table. So when you read the beginning of the law, it has a couple paragraphs prefacing the intent of the law, explicitly stating promoting mixed use in the B1 district. But then when we see the tables, mixed use hotels are actually a prohibited use in the B1 and 2 districts. And I think a mixed use hotel is a hotel with a restaurant or a bar or something on the first floor. And I'm not really sure why we want to prohibit that in the B1 or whatever. I think that's a common thing. You go to towns and villages that are tourist areas or areas attracting visitors like we're doing here. It's something you want to see. So I think that's, to me, the outstanding thing that's lacking. I think it's a good idea to allow those uses in there. So I'm not sure it's an oversight, I know it's a big long law, but,
Yeah, I'm looking at that because that was, we've modified the table numerous times.
you know what, and I'm going on the file, I think, the
Yeah.
most recent file.
Yeah.
Because you got B1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, no, it's prohibited in 1 and 2 and allowed in 3. And I think that is something that, the board, if you wish to change that, I think that's not unreasonable, but I have to think about it because that means that a hotel can be in the center. I think the B2 district is probably not something that's going to really accommodate that type of use.
My confusion is, because I've thought about a couple of places, right? Old Guards approved. I would consider that a mixed use, right? Because it has a catering hall with it. And then I think of like, you gotta think of hypotheticals when you think of zoning. So I also thought of like Pellegrin Apartments or something. So say that property changed hands and somebody wanted to put a hotel with catering or something like that there. I think that would be a mixed use hotel, and I doubt that's something we wanna prohibit. So, again, and like, right,
Well,
it's a
the
big
reason-
law, yeah.
The reason that was done is because mixed-use development, which is specifically hotel located over first floor non-residential use, replaces dwelling units over first floor non-residential uses. So, that is something that, and mixed-use development allows for the old dwelling units over non-residential. So that's still allowed, the mixed-use development is still allowed in the B1.
I
yeah.
understand, but would a mixed-use hotel, so if one of these properties, changed hands or there was a conversion, and somebody wanted to convert to a hotel, maybe just a 2 or 3 story, and the first floor is gonna be a restaurant or a bar, are we prohibiting that use? And that's what
The
I wanna
idea
make
for
sure
this-
we're not.
Center of the village was, when we say mixed use, we were looking at more like retail.
Yeah.
With dwelling units over, that's the way it's always been. Now, if the board wishes to allow hotel over retail or some other commercial use here in B1, then
Isn't it
that's
addressed already though, that it has to be commercial on the ground floor?
It has to be commercial. Uh-huh.
And
But
my
that-
recommendation would
that-
obviously be special exception,
Well, yeah,
to coincide with the other, it wouldn't just be a permitted use, it would have to go to planning for that, and that's where eyes are on it for planning purposes. I mean, my concern is future projects that I think everybody in this room thinks would be a good idea, have the X next to them right now.
well, that one particular one does, because it was always not. It's a
Right.
new use and
All right, so am I right in saying that his concern is already addressed?
no, he's
No.
saying that if you're going to allow hotel over commercial, allow it not just in the B3, but also here, in B1.
As
Well, I don't know about
as a special
B2.
exception.
Oh, of course,
I
it's
guess
special.
B2 as well, but that,
Because I think I would consider, you can make the case that Old Guard is that also, right? Because they're bringing catering on the backside, it
Yeah.
is resident,
I mean, if the board wishes to take the planning board, are you representing the planning board?
I don't have consensus on this. I mean, you have 2 members here,
Yeah, it's too bad Mr. Green left.
You have 2 parts.
Two parts. If the board wishes to consider that, it's, if that's allowed, it would still be special exception. It would still have to meet all of the special exception requirements that you've laid out, 12 of them, 13 of them.
yeah.
And the planning board would have a lot of discretion. It would still have to meet the parking requirements, etc.
It's a hard review, it's not like ministerial or anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if the majority or the whole board approves, let's make that a change.
Does the board want to take that up right now?
Sure.
Okay.
You want a motion?
Yeah.
Yes, you would need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
You guys, does everyone understand what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All
And I'll
right,
second.
motion by trustee DeSalvo, seconded by trustee Livesey. Roll call.
Trustee Aller,
Aye.
trustee Livesey,
Aye.
trustee Ramus,
Aye.
trustee DeSalvo,
Aye.
Mayor D'Onofrio.
Aye, motion carries. Thank
All
you.
right, so.
Gentlemen, I definitely thank you for taking the time out. And I'm
Thank you.
gonna exit and meet with my fire officer.
And you-
Thanks.
And you're talking about, that's an old review, but, no, but yeah, but the same.
Same thing.
Yeah. Okay, so that's.
All right, I have a couple other changes, but is there anyone in the audience? Yeah.
Unless, did you want to speak, sir? Hi, again, Ron Malco, 7 Parry. I'm the, right next to this development here, and I noticed that they need a special exemption here for that hotel accommodation there, and the law that was written up. And also 6 other special exemptions, and I was wondering how many special exemptions do they need to build this project. But, gentlemen, I sent you all an email. Did you receive it? Good, because I had the wrong return address there. I want to just bring up a hypothetical here, in the sense that, why, you know, if this two-way street thing, to alleviate that, why don't they just come up Harry Avenue, turn into the parking garage, and exit on Drew, and go back towards Main Street?
Sir, I can,
Well, hold on, Joe.
okay,
The reason is because having a ramp from the second floor to the first floor is gonna take away parking spots, and they don't have enough parking spots as it is to fulfill the needs that you have required of them. One was one parking spot per room, with a special exemption. I don't see why they can't do that, but yet,
okay, well, we're here,
because-
this is a public hearing on the zoning,
okay,
not that place.
okay, very good.
But
Thank you for reminding, thank you for
but to
reminding me.
address your concern, which happens to be my concern, I will tell you right now, it's not gonna be two-way on Perry or two-way on Drew. So that's out.
Okay,
I'm just letting, I don't want you to
Okay,
worry about
all
that,
right,
because there's
all right.
other things for you to think about, and that's not gonna happen.
the one that really gets me, the one special exemption, is the movement from a 20-foot rear setback to a 10-foot. And will you accept some pictures from my property to,
Absolutely,
as
yes, absolutely.
thank you. Because I brought in some pictures here from my driveway, and I estimate this is about, the current bank is about 25 foot, this would be 50, that'd be 60, I don't even see the top of the bank. This is 10-foot setback to this cinder block, that's a 20-foot. Something to consider if you haven't made up your mind already. I'd appreciate you taking a look at that, and I think that they need this 10-foot setback is just because to build. I don't want to go there because it's all about the zone, as you said. I did have a question about the power lines. Is that all being?
The power lines also have nothing to do with zoning,
Okay.
but I will
I-
give you an update. In your letter, you talk about the power lines, but I just want you to know that the power lines that are being looked at by Orange and Rockland on Perry and Church aren't new poles.
Yeah, yes,
No.
yeah, I
Well,
saw,
it has something about
I
private
saw,
property or something, those are not new
I
poles.
saw the outline of where the pole, or
Yeah.
the changes.
Yeah.
I mean, is there any expense to the village?
I don't know that answer tonight. I've only had 2 meetings with Orange and Rockland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask another question of the village board? Is there does the town have a hotel tax? A
The-
hotel
the-
occupancy tax?
Years ago, I proposed a hotel tax. I thought it was a way to make some nice money from out-of-towners, and I was shot down. The county, Orange County, finally adopted a room tax or occupant, whatever they call it, a room tax.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And they
they
distribute-
receive it,
And they distribute it to the communities?
and a little piece, a little piece, really, not a piece, a little piece. Now, we actually should have a room tax here. But that's that'll be in the future,
All right,
because it's on my desk.
as in my letter,
Mm-hmm.
I think that the residential density should be changed. Because I think that will, zoning change for a higher density, because it'll bring more permanent residents to the community, which will need Main Street businesses to service them, and that'll revitalize your Main Street. Transient residents, I don't think will really increase it much more than what you have already. Game day is still gonna be just like game day. Thanks for listening. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.
Alan Post, 7 Perry Avenue.
You know him?
No, no.
For a little while.
You're about to vote on something that's going to change the character of this village forever. Correct? Building a building this height, this magnitude in our small village. And I can't think that this huge building is what each of you thought about, like what this community needed. Did it ever come into your mind that let's enable this building to be built and it's the best for our village? A building going by your zoning is twice the size of any building that's already here. And it'll dwarf the buildings probably for decades to come, because who else is going to come and build a building of that magnitude? I just don't know. And we voted for you to look after the best interests of all the people of this village. The people that live here, not outside developers who want to come into, they don't have the best interests of this village at heart. I really don't think they do. And I'm asking you to just do the right thing tonight, if you vote on it tonight, which I guess you're going to do. And I'd also like to say that I don't know how long this has been in the works, maybe a year, when we first got a knock on our door from a real estate woman. Not one of you came to us. I don't know who you may have visited in the North End, who you spoke to in the North End, but this was a possibility for happening to our village and to the people of the North End, particularly to us as neighbors. I just wanted to make that comment. And I ask you that you do the right thing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Ed?
Edward Dunn, Revolutionary Road, Highland Falls, New York, planning board member and conservative citizen. As a planning board member, I want to know, are we going to get these documents tomorrow if you pass this tonight with a map?
I can let you know later.
What the changes?
I can let you know later. I don't, if I say yes, no,
Okay.
I want to say yes, but
The
I'm
local
saying,
law,
it's hypothetical.
even if it was passed tonight,
Right.
if this board enacts it tonight, it doesn't take effect until it's sent to the Secretary of State.
they have to sign off first before it's a law.
Okay, so then, basically, our meeting for tomorrow night, workshop is a moot point, we might as well not even have it.
That's up to you guys.
Okay,
Okay.
that's all.
Mr. Mayor, I would, am I on?
Yeah, should be a
Okay, so-
red light there.
There were some comments submitted to the board, questions, et cetera.
I don't know.
I would like to address some of those, because you've asked me to take a look and verify or not. So, there was an email that was sent, and it talked about very specifically, this local law is only for this one property. That it is, and that actually isn't true. There was a petition, as you know, filed, it was rejected, and it was withdrawn. After that, this board took up this proposed thought. And it was sent to the planning board just informally after a meeting. The planning board was asked what they thought. Much of their comments were included then in the draft local law that was introduced in November. There's also a misconception that this change is only for 3 blocks on Main Street. That is not true. This affects more than 25 acres of property in the village. And that's the entire B1 district. There are 2 sections that are now B3, north and south. So it really focuses on the Main Street and the Route 218 commercial corridor. And that's very much in line with what the comprehensive plan recommended. So it's not true that this was written for the developer. It's hotels as well as mixed use are already allowed in the B1 district. Hotels are allowed in the B1 district. That property is in the B1 district, so hotels are allowed, as well as mixed use. So that's a little bit of a misconception. I wanted to point that out. We talked about other things. Parking garages are a special exemption, and will this garage be open to the public? Well, first of all, parking garages are already allowed, again, in the B1 district. The change here is that what this local law says is that if you're going to increase parking, you need to think about where you're going to put those cars, and perhaps a parking garage is a good idea. If you propose that to the planning board and the planning board thinks it's a good idea, then that's fine. A private garage cannot be open to the public unless the owner wants it to be. There is concern about the height, and yes, the board is increasing the height through this local law if you pass it. Also, there's some confusion as to the side yard setback. Right now, in the B1 district, right now, 12-foot side yard setback is, if provided, is required. But that means that if you're building something that, and there is a side yard setback, should be 12 feet, but it's not required. So there's a little bit of a misconception about, and it is kind of confusing in the bulk tables as it is. So I just wanted to address that. I know there's some expressed concern by members of the public about the 10-foot rear yard setback. I think you might.
I'm going to address that in a minute.
And then that's really about it, just to, again, so the public knows, hotels are already allowed in the B1 district. Are they allowed at a larger height? No, that's what this local law would propose to do, as well as other commercial buildings, just along the corridor. Okay, so those, I just wanted to get that into the public
thank you.
record so
Thank you.
that, the board wanted to be responsive to these questions.
I just want to quickly refer to the comprehensive plan, economic and commercial development, and under that category, select geographic areas for economic activity that are suitable for commercial development in terms of location, access, and environmental constraints, particularly Main Street in the Village of Highland Falls. Also promote mixed-use development downtown with ground floor commercial/retail uses and residential development above. And there's other points in here that I won't get into, but on such a change in the zoning, I would like everyone to know that a lot of research was done. This book has come out more over the last 3 or 4 months than previous. And a little sidetrack, this goes back to '09, our comprehensive plan, and tonight there's on one of the agenda items applying for a grant to update. It's 10 years old, and you want to do it when it's 10 years old or sooner. But we're going to update this hopefully within this year. But we are following, I believe, the comprehensive plan. So that comment. Now, Elise, I would like you to come up with some wording that won't hinder us tonight if the board chooses to vote, but some screening in the rear.
Yeah.
That can be supplied by the planning board, I would assume.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are special exception guidelines for the planning board that are written into this law. There's like 11 or 13 of them that are specific areas that the planning board must look at and consider before granting any type of approval, just like you do now for any special exception use. So one of those in both areas, hotel mixed use as well as just mixed use, is landscaping. And right now, there are, what it says in the local law, as I'm sure you all have read, landscaping between the building and the street is required for all new construction. Landscaping between the building and the street is encouraged to the greatest extent practicable where existing buildings are being renovated or repurposed for a use subject to this subsection. The board had asked me to look at perhaps including wording in that section, in both uses, that allows the planning board discretion to require screening for any property, commercial property that abuts the residential. Now, I think, as Trustee Ramus pointed out, I think there's already wording like that in the general zoning law, but I think putting something in there in this so that it's specifically called out and allows the planning board to use their discretion to require some type of screening if they think that it's necessary. So with the board's permission, I will include just a very simple sentence: the planning board may require screening at its discretion between commercial and residential neighborhoods.
You need a
Yes.
motion for that?
That's just a motion.
I make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Livesey, second by Trustee DeSalvo. Roll call.
Trustee Howard?
Yes.
Trustee Livesey?
Aye.
Trustee Ramus?
Aye.
Trustee DeSalvo?
Yes.
Mayor D'Onofrio?
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, I have one more thing. Is there any other public comment?
Mr. Mayor, I just got a couple as public comment, or I can do it
Go
unless there's somebody else. Just a couple quick
ahead.
ones.
Go ahead.
All right, so as a member of the public, I had stated for numerous years that the only way we can grow this village is up because we have such constraints. But it should be through smart growth. And the way this law is written, I was about 90% comfortable with it. There's 10%, but everybody isn't going to agree on everything, that's for sure. I heard a couple of things that came up tonight that we addressed. And I was glad to hear that. Obviously, one of them was the two-way streets, and getting some feedback from the police department, from the highway department, and from the fire department. Their recommendations aren't for that, so that made me feel comfortable. As far as some setbacks, we did discuss that, and you brought up a very good point. But we still have to be cognizant of the residential behind, and I think we're going to address that, just so you know. More than 10 feet, I would hope. That's what I'm hoping for. Some of the other things that came up with screening, and we're going to address that also tonight. So, you know, like I said, 90% there. I think anything that we can do to bring ratables into this village is a good thing. Getting more commercial on the bottom that will bring retail or something else into the bottom, I think is a great thing for the village. But we all have to compromise, and I was told that numerous times about compromise, because I was pretty hard-headed on that. So, just waiting to find out what we can do about the setbacks here, and we just hope we can increase it to more than 10 feet. That's all I really got for the public tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just one more
Thank you,
response to Mr. Malakote. Actually, there is a reduction in the size of, the required size of apartments. Just so you know, you said, maybe a little more density. Well, that will help with bringing people into the village. So the apartment, the board had already changed single-family detached dwellings for several months ago. But it also reduced the apartment sizes from the required 900 to 750.
That's the hotel rooms, correct?
No, the hotel rooms don't typically have that's the building code. Yeah. They don't really have a size, but I just wanted you to know that, so,
For a one-bedroom, Is it for a one-bedroom? I think it's, or is that multiple?
That's just the size of an apartment. It's not specific to bedrooms. Bedrooms only have to be like 70 square feet.
Right.
So, and Mr. Mayor, you said you had one more change you wanted?
Yeah, I'm going to
Board wanted to
recommend to the board for a motion that we change the setback in the back from 10. The original was 20, to compromise and to bring this to a head tonight, this new zone law, it would be 15.
Motion.
Motion by trustee Livesey, second by trustee DeSalvo. All in favor?
Aye.
Gina, I'm sorry, you know what we're motioning, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I said all in favor, roll call.
Trustee Howard,
Yes.
trustee Livesey,
Aye.
trustee Ramus,
Aye.
trustee DeSalvo,
Yes.
Mayor Denocchio.
Aye, motion carries, thank you so much. Okay, I'll close the public hearing at this time.
Motion closed.
So moved.
Yeah, motion to close, motion by trustee
Second.
DeSalvo, second by trustee Howard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Public comment on agenda or other items? If not, I'll move on to approve the minutes that were done at our January 21 meeting, 2020.
I make a motion we approve the minutes for January 21.
Second.
Motion by trustee DeSalvo, second by trustee Howard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next on the agenda is to authorize the mayor to sign a secret. Part 3, Elise,
Yeah, I need to go,
Please.
yeah. All right, so in order to go forward with any local law, as you know, you have to comply with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The Board of Trustees is the lead agency, as the only agency who can actually change the zoning law. So you had asked your consulting engineer to prepare a long-form EAF Part 1, because this is a type 1 action, because it affects more than 25 acres, and that was done on November 19, 2019, as you know. He and I, your consulting engineer and I, also prepared a Part 2, primarily him, he's the engineer. That identified any areas of potential environmental impact, which you also have a copy of Part 2, and you've reviewed that. So tonight, in order to complete seeker, the board must complete Part 3. And Part 3 basically says, okay, we've identified these areas, all these impacts, and here is what we have determined those to be. Part 3 is very much in concert with Part 2. So each little column talks about that, and in Part 3, you identify yes or no and what happens. So this is going to be a little lengthy, but I want to go through the narrative that's associated with Part 3. That was prepared by myself in consort with the engineer based on the comments from this board and the comments from the public, review of the comprehensive plan as well as the local law. All right, so the first thing, the first major subject is, will this have an impact on land? And it's determined by part 2 that it will have a small impact. And let me tell you why. The adoption of the local law itself will not actually cause any construction to be done or any change. However, as the full EAF recognizes, all or nearly all of the properties that are affected by this are already developed. Therefore, little land disturbance is anticipated. In addition, although bulk requirements have been addressed, only one arguably new use has been added to the business district corridor, and that's hotel mixed use. Now, again, hotels are already permitted in B1. Whereas hotels and mixed-use development, residential over commercial, were already permitted in B1 and B2 districts, the new use allows hotels to be located above commercial uses in the new B3 district, which is located at the northern and southern end of the town. So therefore, the board has determined that even though the zoning change contemplates minimal changes to the actual uses, more of the village's commercial corridor along Main Street and Route 218 will now be included in the B3 district. And even though those properties now included in the B3 district have been developed, Village Board recognizes that a site-specific project may carry environmental impacts and will be subject to the full environmental review by the Planning Board that would have to be done before any approval by the Planning Board is given. So, for example, if a building's height or exterior footprint is allowed to expand under the new zoning, the Planning Board, as likely lead agency for that particular site plan and special permit approval, will be required to complete a project-specific environmental assessment at that time. Finally, there is one large parcel, 20.3 acres of vacant land that is being rezoned from R3 to B1. The parcel lies between Main Street and State Route 9W. Commercial development lies to its south, and suburban residential development lies to its north. In addition to single-family homes and planned residential developments, which are fairly high-density development, the R3 district currently allows a number of business uses, bed and breakfast, community facility uses, parks, and existing fuel oil storage and distribution centers. So the B1 district allows similar uses as the R3 district, including residential use, parks, and bed and breakfast, but does not allow, of course, fuel storage of any kind. Impact on geographical features, no impact. The full EAF, which is, by the way, Part 1 identifies, it links out to the DEC's mapper and actually identifies particular areas of environmental impact. So that's goes right out to the state and to this area and looks and fills in the EAF Part 1, which again the consulting engineer prepared. So the full EAF identified no unusual or unique landforms within the already disturbed areas of this village. Impact on surface water, small impact. Adoption of the local law itself may result in small, if any, impacts to surface waters. For example, the full environmental assessment form implicated 4 streams and water bodies, including Highland Brook and an unnamed stream that runs through Crystal Pond. I'm not sure what that stream is called. It wasn't really identified by the mapper, but it was shown. So, but again, the properties subject to the new zoning are already developed. The EAF mapper also identified state-regulated freshwater wetlands within a wetland checkpoint, and that was mapped, but noted that the proposed action would not cause or result in any alteration or increase or decrease in the size of those, or encroach on them. So, as you know, you've reviewed those areas delineated by the mapper and concurred that the wetlands are not located near any subject property to be rezoned and thus won't be affected. Nevertheless, again, if any developer comes forward with an application, the planning board will again review at that point in time with the most current information, all the environmental impacts, if any. Impact on groundwater, no impact. As reported by the EAF mapper in part 1, the action will not result in any impacts to groundwater. The zoning amendment doesn't actually create any, and these properties are already developed. Likewise, the mere expansion of the commercial district isn't going to impact or create new demand for water. The village board notes, however, that there is excess capacity now in the village water supply. And the village's reservoirs, Upper Bog Meadow, Jim's Pond, and Lower Bog Meadow have a capacity in excess of 100 million gallons, 20 million gallons, and 5 million gallons respectively. So I picked that right up from the report,
That's correct.
okay? And usable storage is in excess of 85 million gallons. So again, there is plenty of water for commercial development and residential development in the village, barring some kind of terrible catastrophe, which well, I guess that's not what we hope doesn't happen. Okay. Impact on flooding, no impact. Impact, please refer to 3, impact on surface water. So I'm just referring back to number 3. Impacts on air, no impact. And again, that's because the uses are already allowed, for the most part, in these proposed zoning changes. Impacts on plants and animals, now no impact. Now the affected area is and was identified, meaning the village, this portion of the village, as having chestnut oak trees, intertidal mudflats, tidal marshland, natural communities, as well as northern long-eared bats, black edge sedge, Atlantic sturgeon, short-nosed sturgeon, which are endangered or threatened species, and eastern small-footed myotis, and eastern worm snake, which are rare plants or animals. Again, these properties have already been developed. So to the extent that there's any impact at all, well, there just isn't going to be any. I mean, we're not, any more than there would be any kind of impact if that big parcel of vacant land were developed, right? That would go through the same analysis as you guys went through here.
So,
Now, also, I just want to make you understand, and for the public, a lot of these areas, when they're mapped and they show up on the EAF, it's just they're in the general vicinity. That doesn't mean they're on the property that's being rezoned or close to it. For example, the mapper identified bats as endangered or threatened, but they identified them near Cranberry Mountain, completely outside of the village of Highland Falls. So, but what happens is when you do this and you identify these endangered species or rare species, you have to address that. And so that's what you do in part 2 and part 3. No impact on agricultural resources because there are no farms or ag districts within this corridor. Now, the U.S., now we go to aesthetic resources, and I promise I'll try and make this quick. I know it's long, but this needs to be put into the record. So, what?
rock on.
Rock on, yeah. Okay, impact on aesthetic resources. Small. The U.S. Military Academy at West Point is located, as you know, in the village of Highland Falls, and there is a scenic lookout at West Point. So the question is this going to impact that scenic lookout in West Point? No, it isn't. The village has no zoning authority over West Point. In addition, there are a number of sites that are eligible for listing on State Historic Register, Sacred Heart, West Point Museum, and several others. But again, those are already developed, and there's development around them, and therefore this will not have an impact. Now, if someone wants to develop something right next to it or within, I think, 500 feet, that would be a type 1 action at the point that goes before the planning board, and a full environmental analysis would have to happen at that point. Impact on historic and archaeological resources, again, the development is consistent with the commercial character of the affected properties for the most part. And there are some residential suburban uses that abut or is contained within the expanded business districts, but almost all of the properties are located along the Main Street and the Route 218 corridor. Impact on critical environmental area, no, there are no CEAs in the village. Impact on transportation, there could be a small impact on transportation as well as an increased need for on-street parking. Now, this board has looked at that and is currently, as you've discussed many times with your consulting engineer who helped me prepare this, you are looking at potentially one-way streets, so a big loop, so that you could get more parking, diagonal parking on the street. So that's certainly something that if this causes more congestion, then there are two things that the board can do. It can look at creating parking itself, or it can require that developers provide parking either through parking garages, which may be encouraged, or otherwise. Okay. Small impact on energy. The types of uses, primarily because the types of uses that are permitted and the reasonably minimal increase in bulk are just not industrial in nature, and it's not anticipated. That required expansion of energy would meet any of the thresholds identified in Part 2. So that was a no. No noise, odor, and light, again. It's anticipated that if there are small impacts, that this would be studied by the planning board. And if you look at the local law, there is in fact authorization for the planning board to require a developer to lessen or mitigate any impact in noise, light, air, etc. Consistency with community plans. No impact. This is very consistent with the comprehensive plan, as the mayor pointed out, as is pointed out in the law itself, and we've listed page sites for the comprehensive plan. And that also gets us to the last one, which is consistency with community character, and again, refer back to the points above 9, 10, and 11. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. As an attachment to this, there were in fact 2 remediation sites that were listed by the mapper, i.e. hazardous waste. So I looked those up, and one is at West Point. It has been closed, as well as the other one, which is the Hudson River PCB. So I've attached to the to Part 3 descriptions from the DEC website that addresses those 2 items of remediation that were shown on the mapper. So that, in a nutshell, is the basis for your determination of significance, which, because there are no significant negative environmental impacts, would be a negative declaration.
Thank you, Lisa. So what I need at this point is a motion to authorize the signature on this.
Motion. Second.
Motion by trustee Livesey, second by trustee Howard. May I have roll call?
Trustee Alward?
Yes.
Trustee Livesey?
Aye.
Trustee Ramus?
Aye.
Trustee DeSalvo?
Yes.
Mayor D'Onofrio?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much.
So Mayor D'Onofrio, you can sign this Part 3 right here and date it.
Not lead agency under mayor, correct?
Yeah, you're the lead agency of the mayor. The board is lead agency.
Okay.
take that back with me because that has to be filed with the
Okay, thank you, Liz. Okay, next on the agenda is the second resolution for tonight. You have it before you,
This is the negative declaration.
yes,
Do you want me to read that?
Yes. it's not as long,
Not
please,
quite.
please.
Whereas on November 19, 2019, the Village Board of Trustees introduced a local law modifying the uses allowed within the Business 1 zoning district and established a new business zone known as the Business 3 district, and modifying the associated bulk table and parking requirements associated with the uses, among other things, within the district boundaries, located in the commercial corridor of the village. Whereas the Board of Trustees is the only agency authorized to amend the village zoning law and is therefore the only agency authorized to act as lead agency pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR. And whereas the board caused Part 1 and Part 2 of the long environmental assessment form to be prepared and determined the action to be a Type 1 action pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.7B2 of the regulations implementing SEQR. And whereas the board has analyzed the potential areas of environmental concern associated with the proposed action in accordance with procedures set forth in 6 NYCRR 617.7, and whereas the board consequently finds that the adoption of a local law that would clarify the intent of the comprehensive plan to allow for more intensive development of commercial, residential, mixed-use properties along the village's commercial corridor by increasing the allowable height of buildings as well as clarifying the meaning of currently allowed dwelling units over first floor non-residential uses, and provide guidelines to allow for such uses. And whereas the board has thoroughly identified and analyzed potential environmental impacts and mitigated said impacts, if any, to the greatest extent practicable as set forth in the long EAF Part 3 and its associated narrative. Now therefore be it resolved that based upon the foregoing, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Highland Falls determines that the adoption of a local law clarifying and modifying the uses allowed within the B1 zoning district, creating a new B3 district, and expanding said business uses to certain other properties that abut Main Street and the Route 218 corridor, as well as modifying the associated bulk table within the village, will not have a significant adverse effect upon the environment, and an environmental impact statement will not be required. And be it further resolved that this negative declaration is issued pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617 of the implementing regulations pertaining to Article 8, State Environmental Quality Review Act of the Environmental Conservation Law. It goes through the types of action. It's a SEQR Type 1 action. It's a negative declaration. It is not a conditioned negative declaration. It describes the action, the location of the action. Contact person is the mayor. And now we would call for a motion to...
Motion, please.
Motion.
Motion by trustee Howard, is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee DeSalvo, may I have roll call?
Trustee Howard?
Yes.
Trustee Livesey?
Aye.
Trustee Ramus?
Aye.
Trustee DeSalvo?
Yes.
Mayor D'Onofrio?
Aye, motion carries, thank you.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is a resolution. Please,
Okay,
please
all right.
read this one and please read this one. Are you
Village-
okay? Because I can do it.
I can do it because I've made some notations to it to correct some of the dates.
Thank you.
Village of Highland Falls, resolution of adoption of local law number 1 of 2020, it is number 1, correct? Titled Amendment of the Zoning Law Modifying the Uses Allowed Within the B1 Main Street Corridor and Associated Bulk Table Modifications. Whereas an introductory local law titled Amendment of the Zoning Law Modifying the Uses Allowed Within the Business 1 Main Street Corridor and Associated Bulk Table Modifications was introduced before the Board of Trustees of the Village of Highland Falls on November 19, 2019. And whereas the Board of Trustees met with the Planning Board and requested comments from the Planning Board regarding the proposed modifications. And said Planning Board responded with comments on September 24, 2019. And whereas the Board of Trustees duly referred the proposed local law to the Planning Board on November 19, 2019, and the Planning Board responded with comments dated December 16, 2019, and January 20, 2020. And whereas the Village Board reviewed and considered the Planning Board's comments and modified the proposed local law in response to said comments, and whereas upon notice duly published and posted, a hearing was held on said local law on December 16, 2019, January 6, 2020, January 21, 2020, and February 3, 2020, whereat public discussion was heard concerning the merits of said local law, and after hearing from all those present wishing to speak and acknowledging written comments had been received, the Board of Trustees declared the public hearing closed on February 3, 2020. And whereas the Board of Trustees determined it was the lead agency pursuant to the regulations implementing the seeker and prepared the FEAF Part 1 and determined that the proposed action to modify the zoning law was Type 1 action pursuant to seeker regs. And whereas the Board of Trustees prepared a full EAF Part 2 which identified potential environmental impacts which could result from the proposed local law. And whereas the Board of Trustees prepared FEAF cause to be prepared, FEAF Part 2, which supported the board's determination of significance. And whereas on February 3, 2020, after duly considering the potential environmental impact, if any, of the proposed local law, the board determined that the proposed local law would not have a significant negative environmental impact and issued a negative declaration, thereby closing seeker. And whereas on December 16, 2019, the proposed local law was duly referred to the Orange County Planning Department, which referral was updated on January 8, 2020 and January 17, 2020, after modifications to the local law were made in response to public comments and planning board recommendations. And whereas by letter dated January 8, 2020, updated February 3, 2020, Orange County Planning Department determined that the proposed zoning amendment did not have significant intermunicipal implications and was therefore a local determination. Now therefore be it resolved that the introductory local law titled Amendment of the Zoning Law Modifying the Uses Allowed Within the B1 Main Street Corridor and Associated Bulk Table Modifications of the Village of Highland Falls be and is hereby adopted on February 3, 2020 as local law number 1 of 2020 of the Village of Highland Falls on a motion by.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by trustee Livesey, second by trustee Howard. May I have roll call?
Trustee Howard?
Yes.
Trustee Livesey?
Aye.
Trustee Ramus?
Aye.
Trustee DeSalvo?
Yes.
Mayor Denarpia?
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you. Good.
You're welcome. I'll make these modifications as I read them and send you.
I have a resolution. Village of Highland Falls Board of Trustees requesting amendments to the New York State criminal justice reforms. Whereas, while there was a need to reform New York's criminal justice statutes during the 2019 state legislative session, it is widely recognized that several of the drastic changes in the laws pertaining to discovery are overly broad and vague and are having unintended consequences on the municipal level. And whereas the dramatically shortened time period in which prosecutors must disclose evidence to defendants and the broad expansion of the matters of which such discovery mandates apply will have significant costs, tax, and justice implications for cities and villages with police departments, local justice courts, and/or code/parking enforcement departments. Whereas the discovery reforms mandate prosecutors disclose evidence to the defense within 15 days of arraignment, for criminal charges, even if the defendant is not in custody. And whereas dramatically enlarges the scope of material that the prosecutor must review and deliver within 15 days of the will overwhelm the ability of city and village officials and employees to prosecute cases while managing their misdemeanors and felony caseloads, and will make it impossible to prosecute vehicle and traffic and local code infractions and violations in compliance with the newly discovery mandates. And whereas the arraignment must now take place within 20 days of desk appearance tickets issuance, thereby requiring justice courts, many of which convey monthly, to meet more frequently. And whereas cities and villages will not reap savings from the bail reform reduction of the burden on county jails. And whereas municipalities are already challenged with operating within the new permanent 2% tax cap and have not received an increase in general purpose state aid in 11 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Village of Highland Falls supports the following set of amendments proposed by the New York State Conference of Mayors that are consistent with the intent of the criminal justice reform, but which will allow for more effective and affordable implementation. 1, ensure that cities and villages are provided with additional financial and operational support to offset the costs of these mandated measures. 2, allow 60 days for prosecutors to disclose evidence to the defense for criminal charges. 3, exclude from the accelerated discovery requirements any charge not involving a misdemeanor or felony. 4, adjust the 20-day arraignment requirements to accommodate local courts that meet on a monthly basis. And 5, allow prosecutors to withhold sensitive information, such as victim contact information, without having to obtain a court order. And be it further resolved that a duly adopted resolution of the Village of Highland Falls be forwarded to the Governor Andrew Cuomo, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, Assembly Speaker Carl Haston, and State Senator James Skoufis and Assembly Member Colin Schmidt, that the New York State Conference of Mayors and local media outlets.
I'll make that motion.
And, yeah, no, I just want to make sure I don't have to read this. Okay, then we have a motion on the floor. Trustee Ramus, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Seconded by Trustee DeSalvo. With a comment?
Yeah, just real quick.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I hope you say.
So just real quick, this basically, for folks in the audience and at home, basically comes down to the bail reform that we had last year, or this year. It started this year, it was approved last year. While I think we probably needed to address bail reform in this state, what we did was we went completely on the other end of the spectrum. And it's kind of appalling that the state legislature allowed this to happen. And now it's being held up through the budget process for this year, and no one's talking about it until we enter into the budget process for the following year. So, as I stated at a meeting a couple weeks ago, it's an election year for state legislators. That's your state senators and assembly folks. When they come knocking on your door and when you get 400 pieces of mail from each of them, I'd like you to reach out to them, because they're going to have contact information on Facebook and Twitter and email addresses and phone numbers. Call them up and just simply ask why they had to go to this extreme for this bail reform. It's just not working. There are countless examples of why this is just not working, because we went to the complete other end of the spectrum. We needed a happy medium, and we went all the way to the wrong way. So I'm glad we're passing this. I just hope that those folks in Albany who do serve our districts are listening.
May I have roll call?
Trustee Alward,
Yes.
Trustee Livesey,
Aye.
Trustee Ramus,
Aye.
Trustee DeSalvo,
Yes.
Mayor D'Onofrio.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much. You'll take care of forwarding that to the appropriate. I have a resolution. Village of Highland Falls Board of Trustees, the Hudson River Valley Greenway Communities Grant Application, Program Application for a Comprehensive Plan 2020 update. Whereas the Village of Highland Falls desires to update its 2009 Comprehensive Plan and is applying to the Hudson River Valley Greenway for a grant under the Hudson River Valley Greenway Planning Grant Program for a project entitled Village of Highland Falls Comprehensive Plan 2020, update to be located in the Village of Highland Falls. Whereas the grant application requires that applicant municipalities to obtain endorsement of the governing body of the municipality in which the project will be located. And whereas if awarded, the Village of Highland Falls will contribute the required grant cash match of $10,000. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Highland Falls in its capacity as governing body of the Village of Highland Falls does approve and endorse the application for a grant under the Hudson River Valley Greenway Planning Grant Program for a project known as Highland Falls Comprehensive Plan 2020 Update. Be it further resolved that the Mayor of the Village of Highland Falls is authorized to sign any paperwork necessary for the submission of this grant application due February the 7th, 2020. May I have a motion? Motion by Trustee Ramus, seconded by Trustee Livesey. May I have roll call?
Trustee Howard?
Yes.
Trustee Livesey?
Aye.
Trustee Ramus?
Aye.
Trustee DeSalvo?
Yes.
Mayor D'Onofrio?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much. And we did get a letter of support for this grant from the town supervisor. So we thank him. Next, I have a 2006 Dodge 2500 pickup truck that's off the road. It's being declared surplus by the water plant operator Jack Sibley. Need a motion to accept
So
the
moved.
surplus. So, motion by Trustee DeSalvo, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Howard, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. This truck will be auctioned off with this new company that we hired at least a year ago to take care of our surplus vehicles. I have a budget transfer resolution. Village of Highland Falls, 2019-2020 budget transfer water fund. Whereas the sewer lateral has been installed at the water treatment plant in order to make the restrooms operational. Now therefore be it resolved that the following budget transfers be approved. $32,000 from F1990.1990 water fund contingency, and the same 32,000 into F8330.0400 water purification and filtration contractual. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Ramus, seconded by Trustee DeSalvo. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Mayor, just so you know, I stopped up there last week when the guys were working. They did a great job. Everything's cleaned up really nice up there. And they even addressed some things that they didn't have.
That's, I had heard that, so we thank them. And now the water plant has a bathroom. I have a resolution for final notice of termination of services for unpaid water bills from May and November 2019. Whereas the Village of Highland Falls has 161 delinquent water accounts in the amount of $50,494.99 remaining unpaid, including late fees from May and November 2019 water billing. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the clerk notify all delinquent water customers that unless payment is made by 4 p.m. on Wednesday, February 26, 2020, water service will be terminated. Be it further resolved that if any service is so terminated, a reconnect fee of $75 will be charged to restore said service. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Howard, second by Trustee DeSalvo. Roll call.
Trustee Howard?
Yes.
Trustee Livesey?
Aye.
Trustee Ramus?
Aye.
Trustee DeSalvo?
Yes.
Mayor D'Onofrio?
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have the Town of Highlands St. Patrick's Day Parade coming up on March the 7th, Saturday, March the 7th at 2 p.m. March the 7th, 2 p.m. on Main Street here. Starts at the Marketplace to Thayer Gate. I would ask that we approve this, all the documentation and paperwork is in, and at the same time, I'm asking the board to waive the live entertainment fee in the motion for the parade.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by trustee Livesey, seconded by trustee DeSalvo. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I only have 3 more resolutions to read. Okay. Mary Jane, what's on TV that you want to get home and watch tonight?
Well, I already missed it, so
Oh, what was it?
just take your time.
Oh, the Super Bowl? What was it?
No, that was yesterday.
Oh, what was it?
Super Bowl recap.
Puppy Bowl? How about the Puppy Bowl? I saw yesterday they now have a cat bowl. Kitten. I thought it was quite cute.
Make such progress.
All right, I have bills and claims for fiscal year 2020 of $157,324.73. I know that you all reviewed the bills.
Motion.
Motion to pay, trustee Howard. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, trustee Ramus, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, I'll make my stuff quick. You know, I'm still getting compliments on the Christmas lights. Now what's being said to me, and the board, I want the board to think about this. Folks want them lit all the time. Now, some communities do that. My thing was to obviously light them before Christmas like we do, and then light them O'Neill graduation, O'Neill prom, West Point graduation, the 4th of July, maybe 6 or 7, maybe St. Patrick's Day, so 6 or 7 or 8 times a year. But I'm getting a lot of comments that folks want them lit all year. So maybe ask around. Over here are the drawings for Roe Park for the $140,000 grant we have. You'll see here that this is the basketball court, totally resurfaced. It will be resurfaced and lined. And then we can decide at the time if we want any nets. The ones that were there were fine, but let's see, all right? The pool is going to be completely done before it opens up in May. Completely done, resurfaced all around the bottom. It's been years and years since that was done. And this one here is the playground, the children's playground. You'll see these areas that are going to be cut out and new surface put in. Are you picking it up? I'm sorry. So this whole, it's not going to be completely done, but where the areas are at the bottom of the slide, the bottom of the swings, where your shoes hit quite a bit. There's some cracking going on also, so they're going to have some areas that are going to come out. Down the road, we have to look at this. The next time it needs to be redone. And we might have to do the whole thing. So this is going out to bid this month. I think it's March 16th is the opening. I won't say, in March. I'm sure it's going to be in March we'll open up so that they can get to work and all this be done before activities start. Also, in-house, we're talking to the Highway Department, John Jones, about 2 new fountains in the spray fountains in the pond. The one that's there now is not working right, and I think I'd like to have another one at the other end. We also might be looking at an area.
With the fountains real quick, Mr. Mayor? That's also gonna help when we get that in there with the aeration and all the algae growth.
That's really what they're for, but for me, I like them because they're pretty. But and the other area is on the east side, somewhere where there's some trees before you get to the Little League, maybe a little picnic grove. We're looking at that. So there's going to be some major improvements to Roe Park, which are needed. And some new things, I think. We we thought maybe we had some water leaks. So I did some crunching of numbers coming out of the water plant, crunching of numbers of going into the sewer plant. And the more I did that, it appeared that there was more water coming out of the water plant than what was being used by the residents. And so I ordered the water plant to call the county, who offers us, and I want to thank Trustee DeSalvo for this, because he turned me on to it. They do this leak detection. The county hires a company to do it, and then they give you the service, the municipality service, for free. And so they came over, and within 2 days, they surveyed all of our water lines. And what it showed is 4 services. It's amazing. I wouldn't have thought that this could happen, but it actually, the gallons of water at these 4 services that are leaking are exactly the number of what's coming out of the water plant over and above their daily usage, which we know what that is. It's usually around 550,000 gallons, give or take. And so we found 4 major leaks. 3 of them are house services, 1 is ours. The one that was ours was in Knox Road, and we fixed it last week. And so now we have to get the 3 house services done.
So, Mr. Mayor, just so everybody knows, and we don't have to call out exactly where they were, but we're looking at 15,000 gallons a day from 2 of them and 20,000 gallons a day from 2 other ones. 20,000 gallons per day. That's a lot of water going into the ground that we already treat. So the sooner that we can get these fixed, the better we are as a community.
I believe that I'm not sure if I brought this up at the last meeting, but I have a news brief here from Senator Skoufis, and I have one from our Assemblyman Colin Smith. $24 million between the 2 of them. 22.7 is James Skoufis, for all these roads in his district. Route 4455, Taconic State Parkway. I don't have to read them all. Goshen.
No,
I don't see Route 218, New York State Road 218, South Main Street on here.
No.
And you're going to speak to that?
Yeah, you have my information right there, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm going to let you speak to it.
Okay, can I see
I'll give it to you. One second. A lot of millions. Some birthdays. I only bring birthdays up because these people have achieved the great age. Ann Burley, 98 years old. I don't know who knows Ann Burley here, but one of the sweetest ladies you'll ever meet. Good friend. Fran Streck lives down by you. Another sweetheart, 95. It's the water. Let's go back to the water. It's the water.
I don't think I'd go there.
I'll go there. It's the water.
You can.
Now we have 2 people coming up, and we'll talk about these folks again. Snowdrop Smith, going to turn 100. Lee Ross. These are, I wondered what makes you live long. You have to be sweet. You have to be sweet.
I'm not much longer.
No, if you and I are going to... Oh my God, I just figured this out. Lee Ross, another sweetheart, 100. Wow. And she was driving not so long ago. Wow. Fran Streck still drives. Goes to McDonald's every morning.
It's the Mickey D's.
It's the Mickey D's. I asked Mary Jane, I want to ask you this because I think I go to bed thinking about this all the time. I'm worried about the pond at Grove Park. Now we know it's warm, there's no ice, but I will tell you, I'll let Merv tell you in a second. We know there's kids going under even when the flag is up red. You know, I'm so scared. Now, you know, how do you tell someone that? I don't like this. I'm very worried about the pond over there. Okay, I have a meeting coming up with our consultants, our planning consultants. You've heard me speak of them, the LA Group. In fact, the LA Group is doing those renovations that's who did the specs. We're going to have a meeting soon with the regional office of the Empire State Development Corporation to go over our DRI, otherwise known as our $10 million grant last year, to see how we can improve it, how we can improve our applications. So I'll report back to the board. I'm going to have the LA Group, Tracy, with me when I do that. The village clerk and I, and Todd, our engineer, unfolded these 3 maps downstairs. They're from the census. We had to fill out some paperwork, if we agreed or not, on the boundaries of the village of Highland Falls, and we came to the conclusion that we agree with the boundaries that they have on these maps for the village of Highland Falls, and the paperwork was sent back. I find myself being taken up with a large part of my day. This is not a part-time job, and that's fine. In working with the IDA, the Orange County IDA, on the artificial intelligence being proposed for the village of Highland Falls. And I believe that this will be one of the biggest things to come our way, maybe ever. I'm going to set up a meeting with the board and the IDA and AI folks. They're 2 different folks working together to come down and give you the presentation that they gave me. There's also going to be, I've suggested that there be an AI working group, call it what you will. From my email, I call it the AI working group. That'll be, meet once a month, if not more, but once a month, for updates and do-outs. What needs to be done, the garrison commander will be on it, the village engineer will be on it, myself and IDA and AI. And just to give you one example of the kind of folks that are looking to come here, I'm only going to read one. This is from the CEO and founder of this particular company. They're on a mission to revolutionize the treatment of cancer by delivering personalized, clinically, and gosh, I can't even say it, and appropriate nutrition interventions of cancer patients to improve, enhance, and outcomes, and reduce healthcare costs, and empower patients with independence. So this is big. You know, a lot of it's going to be health. Some of it's going to be military. Some of it's going to be communications, medicine, healthcare. These are the folks that are going to come here, and there'll be jobs. They'll live in our community, participate in our community, and it's exactly what we want. So if there's something to report, I will do it at each meeting. Something new to report at each meeting, I will do it. And I'll let the board know of a meeting coming up so that you can get where I'm at with it. This is the zone, this is Roe Park, this is executive session. Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to, John Jones left a list of things that the DPW is working on, so it'll be quick. Replacing the 500-gallon diesel fuel tank, the slab is done, they're ready to go. Repaired and painted planters on Main Street. Repainted historical markers in the Memorial Park. Worked with Water Department, repairing water leaks. Snow, ice removal as needed. Continued picking up leaves and Christmas trees. Village Mechanic now is going to refurbish the street sweeper, and that's going to save us a lot of money. They're also working with, down at the sewer plant, and they're working by getting the belt filter press area ready to be replaced, and this project is going on as we now speak. And the cleaning and washing of all tanks on a daily basis. So they're staying busy. HGTV rally went well. A great mix between town and village residents. MJ, nice job in the paper. It was very nice. It was fun. I want to also thank Officer Sherma and Officer Vasquez and Chief Scott for meeting with me and helping me plan out some traffic flow down by the town. Criminal resolution, I agree with Jim DeSalvo. There is discrimination economically, and that needs to be worked out. On the other hand, I don't think they put a lot of thought into it, because now the victims are really of all races, all creeds, all economic status. So they really need to do something to protect the victims of crime, as well as work on the economical differences among the strata that we have. And that's it.
I'll try to make this quick. So I'll tell you a little story here, and I'm going to go back 3 weeks ago. Something that I pretty much do every day. I go up to Roe Park, and I bring my dog up there. So about 3 weeks ago, I went up to Roe Park, and I come around where the pool is, and I heard this noise going on. And I come around the hedges, and there was 4 boys out on the ice. And obviously the red flags are up, and it's not safe. And you could hear the ice cracking. You could actually hear the ice cracking. So I yelled out to them to get off the ice. And they ignored that, and then I yelled to them again that you have to get off the ice, it's a red flag, and I'm pointing at the red flag. They were probably 17, maybe 18, 16, somewhere around there. They still ignored me, okay? Finally, I yelled out to them, and I said, you got to get off the ice, I'll call the police. They told me to go ahead and call the police, okay? Now we're talking about, you know, the bail and all of that. In my mindset, it's letting a lot of younger youth realize that they can get away with some things now. So anyway, what they did is the police came up, they slowly walked off of the ice, okay? They walked over to the police. The police asked them their names. They told them that they had no names. They asked them their address. They told them that they didn't know where they lived. They gave the police officers a really hard time up there. Nothing could be really done about this, okay? So this is what happened up there. The next morning I hear, and I'm not going to tell you the location, but there was 2 kids that fell through the ice and drowned, and there was about 5 EMTs that were hurt on this, and you're shaking your head and you heard about that. So what I'm reaching out and I'm saying to the folks out here is, when you see something, and we keep saying this, when you see something, just report it right away. Call the police right away. I mean, the kids were out on the ice before I got up there. And you have to call. 2 weeks ago, now that was 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago I go up to the park and I'm walking around and I look down in the pavilion. Okay, I look down on the pavilion and I see glass all over the cement on the pavilion. What they did was, when they were in the pavilion down there, they were smashing out the lights that are in the pavilion up underneath. Okay, so they were breaking the lights up in the pavilion. Again, we're going to try to do something really nice with this park, but this is what's happening, okay? Just yesterday now, I'm walking around the park. Not only, I'll bring this up first, I'm noticing, and I'm gonna say crap, because that's what it is. It's all over the place. And what really bothers me about the dog crap, it's right under the bags. They're not even picking up the bags. And as a village trustee, with the attorney here, and with the board here, I would like to make somehow, for us to figure out a law, on a mandatory fine. If you're gonna be a pet owner, and you can't pick up after your dog, you should be fined. Simple. And that's the way it should be. If you can't pick up after your dog, you need to be fined.
Look at it.
And I really want to look at this. I want people, when they walk with a dog, and that dog craps on the street, on the sidewalk, in a public area, I want you to be fined if you don't pick it up. There is no more excuse for this. It's out of control. That same day, yesterday, as I'm walking around, the next thing I see is the benches in Roe Park are all thrown in a pond. So they actually ripped the benches out and they threw them into the pond. And again, folks, we all know what's going on, so I'm not going to say I don't know what's going on up there. But one thing that I know that's not going on, we have to really, as adults here, if you see something, as has always been said before, you have to say something about it. You have to call, you have to do something. And this defeats our purpose. That park up there is, I'm not going to say one of the only things that we have, but I will say this. Long Pond used to be the town of Highlands. It's not anymore. Okay? We don't have much to be able to walk up and say, hey, this is ours though. Nobody's going to take this piece of property here. And we're going to be putting a lot of money into this up there. With Main Street here, we take a look at Main Street here and we talk about the hotels and what we're trying to do. In my opinion, we're all working here, we're all putting our ideas in, our concerns and everything. I want to see a nice traffic flow here. I want to do it the right way, but yeah, I want to see people spending money and shops opening and all of that. But again, we have to have a community that's not doing this kind of stuff here. And we have to stop this. And that's one thing I think we really need to start doing. No matter what, I'm not a fan, I'm sorry folks, I'm not a Governor Cuomo fan. I'm not. But whatever laws they want to try to make, I think we need to stick to our guns here. And if somebody commits a crime here, I think we need to move forward on this. And that's about all I have to say.
Okay, Murph, thank you. You called me over the weekend to tell me about this, and I appreciate that you did that. And I'm going to take these pictures back because tomorrow I'm meeting with the police department to review the tapes that are over, the cameras that are over at Roe Park.
Right.
And I will report back what's on them. Hopefully this...
And just to put it out there, since we're on TV land right now, we have a very good idea who this may be. So I hope, they're probably not listening or watching this, but we have a very good idea. Anyway.
And this does relate to the resolution earlier to the state about justice reform. And I actually don't think folks know what the new rules are as far as getting an appearance ticket for carrying a gun on school property, aggravated assault, all these very, very serious situations, and you get an appearance ticket. I don't understand it. Jim?
Nothing.
Jim?
Yeah, all right, so, Mr. Mayor, thanks for bringing up the roads and things like that. And I had said that I was gonna come up with something that we can do as a community, as taxpayers, constituents. So we're looking at a postcard campaign, and the mayor has looked at this. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet.
Just to cut you short real quick, you're really pointing to the entrance here coming into the village, just so people know that.
Yeah, all of 218. So that's the first draft, and it'll be a postcard campaign. We're gonna get postcards printed up. All you gotta do is sign your name on the bottom. On the other side, it's already gonna have the address on there. Either you could mail it out, or we may have a box downstairs, and then we could actually bring them up there and do a press conference on it. And we're gonna send them to Governor Cuomo, our state senator, Mr. Skoufis, and our assemblyman. And just real quick, it just states that as concerned taxpayers and constituents, we have a concern about the road conditions of a New York State highway, more particularly New York State Route 218 in the village of Highland Falls. And I was disappointed to read in the local newspaper article that the state is spending $151 million, tax dollars, for the renewal of damaged roads. And again, like the mayor said, 218 isn't on there. That's a lot of money. And I broke it down a little bit further. This is the one that's going to go to the governor. As far as our state representatives, they said they brought money back to us. And if you go on the state assembly's website, they even tout how much money they have brought back to their districts. So that little blurb is in the other ones. So I also let them know that I'm sure they're aware that this road is part of the Freedom Trail that the Iranian hostages traveled on when they came back to be reunited with their families. You know, this is a part of history. And that this road is a gateway to the most prestigious military academy in the world, West Point. You know, and I was really saddened at the last meeting when Mr. Howard, you had made a call, and they informed you that we're not on the list at all. Remember?
Yeah.
Recall that?
Yeah, we weren't scheduled, I asked them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just want to fill in the blank on that, Mr. Howard, you made the call to, so we can add that to it. So again, you know, I and the entire community, along with other taxpayers and visitors to this majestic Hudson Valley, urge you to find funding in this upcoming budget. So the quicker we can get these in, the better we are, because they're going to be working on the budget, and I would love to bring them up there personally to go to Albany. So, Mr. Mayor, hopefully we'll have these printed within a week or two. And then we'll figure out how we're gonna distribute them. I have to go on everybody, on every street, knock on the door and hand them to them personally. I will.
All right, and then when you get a copy of all three, one of each, give them, if you can get them to the editor. And we will have a box downstairs. If you don't want to put a stamp on it, drop it in the box and we'll handle them.
Great. So, yeah, Mr. Howard, thanks for giving a quick update on what they were doing down at the plant down there. I stopped down there, the guys are doing a great job. On the really cold days, they can go in there and do some work. We got the grant monies that are going to fix that essential part of the sewer plant, which is the belt press, and for them to get in there and get that painted before that new one gets in, it's just going to make it that much easier. They continue to do also maintenance on the outside tanks. That's general maintenance that they do every day. Rain, shine, snow, it doesn't matter. Those guys are out there making sure that that plant works properly. Not only the sewer plant, but the water plant. Merv,
Yes.
you made great points about what's going on and the beauty that we have at Roe Park. At last year's National Outdoors Day, we had volunteers come from other communities to help over there. Mr. Elwood was there to help, the mayor was up there, but we had people that don't even live here come and help. And they were shocked to see the jewel that we have in the community called Roe Park.
Mhm.
They couldn't believe how nice that was, because they don't have that in their communities.
Yeah.
So, again, anything that we can do to alert the local police department when something's happening is a plus. Speaking about the National Outdoors Day, Mary Jane, I believe I had it tentatively set. We're looking at, it's going to be June 13th, which I believe is a Saturday.
I'm busy that day.
Well, that's okay. I think everybody
Everybody
has,
outside, is it, or inside?
everybody has a phone, we can get pictures for you. But we're looking at June 13th for
Did
that.
you say no hooks for Mary Jane? What did you say?
I'm busy that day. You can have all the hooks.
He said no hooks for Mary
So
Jane.
I know everybody doesn't fish, which, fishing is a great family outdoor
I fish, I
activity.
just don't put worms on the hook.
But with that being said, we're looking to definitely increase the activities that are gonna go on that day up there.
Yeah.
So I have been talking to some of the people up at the high school, some of the coaches, and some other outdoor organizations that would like to come down and maybe do some small seminars on things to do outside. The Boy Scouts were one, maybe they, we're gonna come in and if we can get the Girl Scouts to do it also, Camping 101. So that would be in a different time slot, along with many other activities. So if anybody would like to help and volunteer for some of these activities, maybe it's not just a one-day event, we can make it a two-day event. So, and speaking of things to do for the kids, the rec department at the town has a great program, great things to do for the kids. But there are other camps out there that are available, and registration for the 2020 season is now open. If anybody, and it's done by the environmental education camps, and children ages 11 to 17 can go to those. So not only can they do their rec department things here, but there's some other camps where they can do a lot more hands-on stuff. And if anybody needs some information on that, please give me a call. One last quick thing, Mr. Mayor, and Mary Jane, you touched on it in your editorial. It was about the plastic ban, the plastic bag ban that starts on March 1st. And I don't know if anybody's aware, but in New York we use 23 billion plastic bags a year. 23 billion. That's from state stats. That's a lot of bags. So that's going to go into effect on March 1st. And I know at the center, I believe on Wednesday, Mr. Howard, at 8 o'clock in the morning, we do have an environmentalist that's going to be speaking there, one of our own. And she's going to talk about what this plastic bag ban is about and different ways that we can alleviate that. And the best way to do it right now is there's a lot of the reusable bags that many of the establishments have. If you pick up some of those, I was down at Walgreens, they said theirs are coming in soon. Some other places are going to go to paper bags, but paper still, we're using up a resource that maybe we should be able to use somewhere else. That's what I got for today.
Plastic bags replaced the paper.
Yeah, they did.
And now they're going back. True statement, true statement.
It's gonna be hard for dog owners to use those reusable bags, just look into that.
All right.
Yeah.
I have no need to go into executive session. I do want to recognize Councilman Richard Parry is here. Rich, anything you want to add?
When you were talking about your decorative lights, instead of calling them Christmas lights, call them holiday lights. There's always a holiday. Keep them on.
Thank you. I will. And also, so folks know, it was a 3-year project that I started. This year coming will be the 3rd year. So there's a few more trees that on Main Street that are going to get lit with the season coming up. But yes, thank you so much. Take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Trustee Howard, seconded by Trustee Livesey. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you so much. Yes.